Vanakkam Tamil Nadu. Nalla irukingla? I hope you are all doing well. Please stay safe during the pandemic. Maintain social distancing. Use masks. Use sanitizers. And do take your vaccines on time. Let us fight this COVID-19 together. And let's hope that the third wave will be a wave of common cold and not as serious as the second wave. So please do your bit. Right. Today we are going to talk about Tamil Nadu. A very interesting news from Tamil Nadu has come. Recently, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has announced that a memorial will be built for those who were killed in 1987 one-year quota still. Right? In 1980s, there was a movement by the one-year community for reservation. So today's discussion would revolve around the issue of reservation in Tamil Nadu. And we all know that the state of Tamil Nadu has been a pioneer in terms of reservations. Now, when an aspirant or anybody asks, sir, what is the quota? What is the maximum quota of reservation? The court had mandated 50% reservation in the Indira Shahani case. We all know that. But since 2019, 10% EWS reservation has already been given. So technically, now it is 60%. But if you talk about Tamil Nadu, before the 10% EWS reservation, in Tamil Nadu, 69% reservation was provided. After EWS, it technically goes to 79%. That is why reservation politics is very, very prominent in Tamil Nadu. And today we are going to talk about the latest chapter in reservation politics in Tamil Nadu, which is connected to the one-year community. Let's try to understand this particular news and the development that is going on around this by understanding the history. We'll talk about the one-year quota stir. We'll talk about the decision of M.K. Stalin, why the decision has come at this point of time, because it is connected to politics in the state of Tamil Nadu. That would be the agenda of our discussion. To get all this information, it's a very interesting case study for you. So stay tuned with me on Study IQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigaonkar. You can follow me on the ID @Rahul Sai 222. If you have any doubts, any queries, if you want to connect with me, you can directly message me on Instagram. I do reply on weekends. Apart from that, if you're preparing for UPSC Civil Services or any state PSC, there are a lot of programs studying. We also have Tamil Nadu PSC program here. Do visit studyiq.com or download the app from Google Play Store to know more about us. Right, let's first talk about the news. As I told you, last month itself, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin had announced 10.5% reservation for one-year communities. Specifically for them, 10.5% reservation in admissions as well as in government job. That means in education and in terms of the government sector jobs. After a month now, recently he has announced that there would be a memorial which would be constructed in Villupuram district in Tamil Nadu, where in 1987, when there was the reservation stir or the agitation was going on, in the police firing, many people were killed. Now, to commemorate that, basically as a memorial for that particular incident, a construction would take place. And this was promised by the Chief Minister during his rally in 2019 in Vikramandi, where he said that we will construct a memorial in the memory of people who had lost lives in 1987 agitation stir. So that's the basic background of what exactly is happening right now. But let's first try to understand about this 1987 movement. But before that, who are these one-years and how much of a clout they hold in Tamil Nadu? See, one-years by the name itself, they are a jati or a community in Tamil Nadu. Now, we all know in India there are multiple castes, more than 5,000 castes, sub-castes are present in India. One-year is one of that which is very prevalent in Tamil Nadu. They are mostly concentrated towards the northern side of Tamil Nadu. You can see that this is the area where the one-years are very prominent. In some of the districts, in fact, they have huge numbers, approximately a quarter of the population in Tamil Nadu, it is said that it is one-years. And one-years are right now politically quite strong. They are the largest caste group in Tamil Nadu. In fact, they are also very, very consolidated. One of the parties, PMK, Pattali Makkala Katchi, it is a representative of the one-years itself. Right? It was founded by S. Ramadas. So one-years history is this, that they are a caste from Tamil Nadu holding a huge population, and in 1980s when they consolidated, the demand for the reservation began. Now, the argument is that they have a population of 25% of Tamil Nadu. They need to get reservation because they are backward. Right? In 1980s itself, the agitation started. They demanded 20% separate reservation for themselves in the state government jobs and the state institutions. They also demanded for 2% in central service. Now, this was the demand in 1980s. and the Justice Party in Tamil Nadu, the self-respect movement also initially they supported all these movements. In fact, one of the parties in Tamil Nadu, Pattali Makkala Kachi, as I told you, it was founded because of this movement itself. That means the movement is quite old, but in 1980s they consolidated themselves, which was supported by this particular party, which later on became a party. But S. Ramadas, one of the founders, he was one of the ardent supporters of this reservation. Now, what these people did, the Vanniyas wrote many letters, many telegrams. They tried to communicate with the government at that time. MGR was the chief minister. MGR from AIADMK, MG Ramachandran, the actor, he was the chief minister in Tamil Nadu at that time. At that time, the government was Rajiv Gandhi government after 1984. Many communiques was sent to the government, but no response came either from MGR or from the Rajiv Gandhi government, the central government. So what these Vanniyas did, they had consolidated themselves, they started an agitation. Now, the agitation was such that I would say at times it did turn violent also. What did they do? They resorted to bunds, they resorted to gheraos, and the road blockade, rail blockade, everything was done. In fact, in May 1986, it is said that the 1 year movement, it brought entire state of Tamil Nadu on the standstill. Nothing was moving, entire traffic was halted. To such an extent, the movement was very, very strong, right? What happened? In 1987, again, they declared that there would be an agitation, there would be rail roko, rasta roko, everything from September 17 to September 23, 1987. Now, this movement turned violent. What happened here? During these agitations, there were police firings, there were clashes between Vanniyars and the other communities, especially the scheduled caste communities and the other backward classes, right? So, in these police firings and in these fights, about 21 protesters, at least 21 protesters were dead in the police firing and in the clashes. Now, this particular incident, it shook the entire state, it shook the entire administration, it shook, I would say, even the central government to a certain extent. So, what happened after that? A solution was in sight, but within 3 months, the incumbent chief minister, MG Ramachandran, he died in December 1987, leaving this particular question open. So, this question was left open itself. Now, after the election in 1989, the Dravida Munnetra Kadagam came to power. At that time, the chief minister was M. Karunanidhi. Now, after he became chief minister, he announced the reservation for 1 year. Now, what M. Karunanidhi did, he basically divided the OBC quota, right? The other backward class quota, which is already there, which is already running in Tamil Nadu. He divided the quota into backward castes and the most backward castes. And 1 years were put into this MBC caste, most backward caste, and they were given a reservation of 20%, not just for themselves. Please remember, not purely for themselves, but along with 1 years, there were about 107 communities who were added to this most backward caste. That means now 20% of seats would be reserved for most backward castes. In that, one of the castes was 1 year. Now, that was the situation. But what has been happening recently, in 2021, the Tamil Nadu went for state legislative assembly elections. We know that AIADMK government was there. The chief minister was E. Palaniswamy. The government fell in the elections. They could not garner the numbers. So DMK has come to power now. Now, this is known to everybody. But what the AIADMK government led by E. Palaniswamy did in February 2021, they opened the Pandora's box. Now, why did this happen? Because the demand has been going on. See, the Pattali Makkala Kachi, they have been demanding 20% reservation even now also because of the historical arguments. They argue that the representation of the community of 1 year is 25%, but right now they only get about 8% reservation because of the most backward castes. Many other castes are also included in the 20% reservation. I hope this is clear. So, what E. Palaniswamy government, the AIADMK government in February, they passed a bill immediately. Now, when was this bill passed? Please remember, just hours before the model code of conduct was to be kicked in, the E. Palaniswamy government, they got a bill passed in which 10.5% reservation specifically for the 1 year community was passed in the Legislative Assembly. Now, the move was quite clear. I hope you understand that in just a month or so, election was scheduled in Tamil Nadu, and E. Palaniswamy's move was mainly to appease the 1 years ahead of the 2021 elections. But we all know what happened in the elections. AIDMK lost, DMK set up the government. So after the result, the move by E. Palaniswamy was heavily criticized by the other faction. In the AIDMK itself, there is Palaniswamy and there is O. Paneerselvam. So Paneerselvam, he belongs to the other backward class of Thewars. They criticized the move by Palaniswamy of giving reservation to 1 year. They said that by doing this, by giving specifically the advantage to 1 year, they have turned the other backward communities against AIADMK. And that happened. And very strangely, as I told you, in Tamil Nadu, 1 years are very dominant in the northern side. But AIADMK lost many seats in the southern side also. Please note that. Again, it was because of the consolidation of the other backward communities who felt the government has failed them by giving pro 1 year announcements, right? The reservation announcement for 1 year. So what happened after that? We know the election results. Now the DMK government has come. And now, recently, the local body polls have been announced in Tamil Nadu districts on October 6th and October 9th. And the result would be out on October 12th, right? The nomination procedure is right now going on. And many of the northern side districts are going to local polls now. This has been announced. And once this has been done, the current incumbent government led by MK Stalin, that is DMK, Dravida Munnetra Kadagam, they have gone for another announcement. As you know, that as soon as they came to power, they endorsed the idea of AIADMK. AIADMK at that time passed the bill. They endorsed the idea and gave 10% reservation to 1 year, one step. Recently, MK Stalin, and that is the DMK government, they have allocated 4 crore rupees for the construction of 1 year memorial in Villupuram. Now, what are all these steps? These are all the steps again to give more and more prominence to the 1 year community whose population is quite immense. Almost a quarter of population of Tamil Nadu is 1 year. So these moves are being seen as a strategic idea by the Dravida Munnetra Kadagam to sideline the PMK, Pattali Makkala Katchi, led by S. Ramadas, who are an ally of AIADMK. PMK are believed to be a party led by 1 year. So DMK is trying to sideline PMK. The question still remains. This is a classic example of reservation politics. What happened before? What AIADMK did was again reservation politics, where they passed the bill immediately just before the model code of conduct to give 10.5 reservation, 10.5% reservation to 1 year. The DMK is doing the same thing. The DMK is going a step ahead by constructing a memorial here. Why? Again, reservation politics, because the local elections are coming. But the question remains, a big question here is, will DMK gain from this? From the past experience, what has happened with AIADMK? AIADMK, they passed a bill to give 10.5% reservation to 1 year, but the outcome was not good. What it did was it consolidated the other backward castes or communities against AIADMK and they lost the election. But now DMK is again playing the game of reservation politics. They have now given reservation to 1 year. They are now going to construct a memorial for the 1 year. Will this yield result in the local polls? That is the big question in front of everybody. Let's see. Let's wait for the results that are going to come up in October 12th. And let's try to answer this question. Is reservation politics still very much relevant in Tamil Nadu political discourse? Let's wait and watch till October. Right now, that is it from my side. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.